Hello, everybody. It's Kevin from the Ninja Turtle Nerds, and I want to tell you all about our new podcast, Nintendo Therapy. So, if you've been listening to our Ninja Turtle Nerds podcast, you know, Sean and I, we love talking about Nintendo, and last year we tried doing a Patreon exclusive for our Ninja Turtle podcast as sort of an experiment to just kind of see how that type of thing works. And during that time, we were recording and thinking of different things to do for those bonus episodes. We kind of discovered that one of the things we love to talk about, and something we should pursue into doing a show, is that we love talking about Nintendo. So what we're hoping that this show will be is a weekly show where we talk about current Nintendo news, any rumors that are circulating at the time, any new releases that are going on, anything interesting with Nintendo, basically. And at the same time, we're also going to be sprinkling in talk about all the things from Nintendo's past that we like. So we'll probably do like top 10 lists of like favorite Zelda dungeons or favorite video game box art, stuff like that. The podcast, it's just going to be a celebration of Nintendo. Like the name implies, we noticed that Nintendo is basically therapy for us. So it's going to be a celebration of how much we love Nintendo and just an excuse for us to get together and talk about what's going on. This upload that you're currently listening to, it's not technically an episode of Nintendo Therapy. What this is it's an episode of our Patreon show where we had the idea for Nintendo Therapy. So I figured I'd upload it to this feed as kind of a pilot episode. This is the recording that led to us starting this podcast. So I figured it could, sit at the bottom of our feed forever. And since we don't have our actual first episode yet, it's something to get the show started. So I hope you enjoy our Nintendo talk here, and I hope you hit subscribe so you can hear us when we drop our actual first episode about a week from now. So without any further ado, here's an old bonus episode of the Ninja Turtle Nerds that led to the creation of Nintendo Therapy. And how's your Nintendo week going, buddy? We're between as we record this, we're between Sonic Frontiers and Pokemon. We're right in the middle.
Yeah, I forgot about Sonic, but I was never going to play that, so...
I watched a lot of reviews. I think I'm going to get it eventually, and like when it's on sale.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about Frontiers is I haven't played it. I watched a lot of reviews, like I just said. And the thing that's funny to me is some of the zones look very Sonic. Like they look straight out of the Sega Genesis Sonic games.
Yeah.
But some of the zones look like somebody did like a Sonic mod on like I don't know, Xenoblade or something, yeah. And they modded Sonic into a different game. He looks like so out of place to me in some of those environments.
Yeah, I watched some videos on it. It just doesn't interest me. I've never really been big on Sonic, but no, I've been gearing up for Pokemon because it's going to be my first foray into it, and I like what I've seen so far. It seems that the beginning is very Breath of the Wild, like Great Plateau, like there's a couple things you have to do first and then everything opens up.
Yeah, a lot of people have already played a bunch of it because they illegally either pirated it or obtained physical copies ahead of schedule. And I've seen that all over the internet, and you're going to be encountering trainers with some high-level Pokemon day one. Just be prepared for that, just like every other time they put out one of these games.
Yeah, so I like the structure. I like how that's set up. And like I was telling you, so I guess the legendary Pokemon you get pretty early on. But what you do is you can upgrade it through the game, which I assume is the different modes of traversal. I don't know if it does anything else, like if you can use it in battles and stuff. So that's kind of cool. And
yeah,
I guess we're going to be in different schools.
Yeah, you and I are getting different versions so that we can have the true Pokemon experience.
But there's raid battles I guess we can do together to get the special crystallized Pokemon. I can't keep track of like all the terms and stuff, but I mean, there's some goofy
like I told
stuff.
you, I only played the first one, so it's all new to me as well. There's
Yeah.
not. I'm pretty sure the first one is like, it's the bare bones of what Pokemon is today. There's almost everything is different, and that's going to be interesting to me because, I feel like from everything I've heard, that previous one, a Curious, I don't know how to pronounce it, a Curious. I think I'm going to end up going back and doing that one. And I might even do the Pikachu one that was basically a remake of the first game. I'll probably end up, within the next couple of years, end up buying. I'm going to snowball because I obsess.
Oh, yeah.
And this is going to be the gateway drug that gets me back into Pokemon. I can see it already.
I
Even
mean,
if this game is bad, it's going to make me be like, well, let me see if the other one's good.
Yeah, so you'll own all 12 by the end of the Switch's cycle, but yeah, I think you and I are in a perfect position to play it because all the negative comments I've seen in reviews don't apply to us because we haven't played enough of them to be like, oh, they changed that, or it's all new.
Or we're getting sick of this by now, and it's like, I'm not sick of it. This is my first time back.
Yeah, so I'm excited to dive into that this weekend.
It's got great pre-order numbers, I read. Like, it might be the highest for any Pokemon game. I should have done more research coming into this podcast, but when this is a real podcast, I'll have my numbers in front of me.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's some weird stuff about it, like the having picnics with your Pokemon and making them sandwiches.
Yeah, I heard something about, like, if you have the other Pokemon games on your Switch, you get, like, a different skin for your, like, PDA or phone or whatever it is you get in the game. You can, like, choose that. I think some of that data syncs up. I know that they're going to have a way where this game connects to Pokemon Go, which makes me want to download that now and get back into it, which I didn't play that. I haven't played that since it first launched. Like, I played it, like, the first couple of weeks.
Yeah. No, I never get into that either, but the thing that's funny to me is, other than, like, Pikachu and the handful I know from, like, watching the show, they're all new Pokemon to me. These could be from
exactly.
6 games ago, and I'm not going to know. Like,
well, the thing is, I know people complain that, the newer games don't have every single Pokemon ever, like, able to come into the game. But to me, that kind of just makes the ones that aren't in there more special. And, like, you look forward to the next time they will show up. So, I don't know. It doesn't need to have everything every time for me.
I feel like that would be beyond unmanageable, especially for you who has to collect them all.
Well, from what I understand, there are people who, and this isn't the first generation that did this, but, like, they literally have these Pokemon for years and carry them through several different games and compete in tournaments with them and stuff, and they don't like when they hit a wall and suddenly can't use that team anymore, which is understandable, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's the rules to this new game. Every game is a new game, and every new game has new rules.
Yeah, so what else? You have to do gym challenges. I thought that was interesting.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know if it's before you can face the gym leader, but there's, like, little, like, oh, you got to go do some random thing. So I like that they added some differences in there. And
nice.
Again, something I haven't experienced. I guess the upgrades or the items you craft are only one-time use, which they haven't done in a while.
So it's kind of like how the weapons break in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I guess it's similar to that. And then
everything comes back to Breath of the Wild.
I feel like they built so much off of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a huge game. To tell you the truth, I'm still playing it. Like, this week I started my file back up. And even though I've gotten all 900 Koroks, and I've beaten all the DLC, and I got my little motorcycle, I haven't leveled up all my armor. So, like, I started playing that for a while, just, like, finding the shooting stars are so hard to find, but, like, just working on finding the stuff to upgrade my armor. that game just never ends. It's so much fun. Honestly, the Switch that might be the best game on the Switch, and it's funny because it was the launch title for it. So, but still, that might be the game that I've played the most. Maybe Stardew Valley, but it's definitely the Nintendo game I've played the most.
Yeah, so Tears of the Kingdom, I'm curious on that. I think if it's got co-op, that's a day one for me. If not, I'll wait for the 2-cent sale.
Well, that brings me into this other thing I made a note about, where I thought a good thing to do on this show would be to talk about like our history with Nintendo and why we wanted to do a Nintendo podcast, which will probably eventually end up re-saying all of this when we make it a real podcast and do our actual first episode. But whatever, our Patreons here can get a first listen.
Well, that goes into Breath of the Wild, because that's a launch game and you're still playing it. And I find Nintendo consoles, like, I'll go back and play that stuff again.
Well, that's kind of in my notes here too about what I like about Nintendo is every now and then I think to myself, because we're adults and life gets busy, so every now and then, a couple of times a year, I'll have this thought where I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to do any new video game franchises. I'm just going to like pick a few and focus on them, and then when I have time in my schedule to play video games, I'll devote it to them.
Yeah.
And every single time it's all Nintendo franchises that I think of. So there's Zelda. I can't not play every Zelda game. I've played them all up to this point. I love Zelda. Like Zelda's in my blood. Got to do the Zelda. And then probably cut it down. There's Mario. Mario's its own company almost altogether.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you got Paper Mario, you got side-scrolling Mario, 3D Mario, Paper. Did I say Paper Mario?
Yeah.
You got Mario Party. You got Mario Tennis. You got so many Mario Kart. So it's like its own subgenre. But yeah, so that's one thing I love about Nintendo is every time I think to myself, you know what? I really need to focus my video game playing because I can't just waste time and money everywhere. And every time I think of that, I'm like, you know what? It always comes back to Nintendo because their franchises are the ones that I feel like have maintained quality the longest. Like, look at a lot of the other systems franchises that we grew up with. A lot of them aren't around anymore, you know, and they make memes about how the developers, you've seen that meme where like the kid's drowning in the pool.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's like the skeletons underneath the water. And it's different logos every time, but the basic gist of the meme is all these franchises that we grew up with just aren't around anymore, but all the Nintendo ones stay strong.
Yeah, there's very, very few of their franchises, because, there hasn't been an F-Zero game in a million years, and I know people want it.
But at least there was one on the GameCube. There's some PlayStation franchises that haven't had a new game since, like, PlayStation 2. Well, I guess that would be the GameCube gen. Never mind. Wipe that.
Well, no, when Ratchet and Clank came back, I was surprised by that.
Yeah, and Jak and Daxter, I'm sure, are on the way, because of the success of that.
But that's the thing, too. Like, you associate Spyro.
Metal Gear got run into the ground.
Yeah.
What are some other franchises that disappeared? Tomb Raider. You and I have talked about how I got into Tomb Raider this year.
Yeah.
They've been ignoring that franchise. And I know, like, the developers had some changes and stuff, but it's weird.
They just sold it.
Everybody talks about how they don't make enough Mega Man games. I mean, I guess that's kind of a Nintendo thing, but we know it's Capcom. But Mega Man always belongs on Nintendo in my mind.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like, I associate Turtles with Nintendo.
Yeah, that too.
But there's other stuff like Crash and Spyro you always associated with PlayStation, so it's weird that they're on every platform now. And then you have stuff like Sly Cooper.
Sonic.
That they just, for whatever reason, won't make anymore. I feel like you could make an amazing Sly Cooper game now.
I have that trilogy on my PlayStation, and I only ever finished the first one because it got very repetitive for me. But I'm sure if I gave it another go around, I could just start at the second game and have a full 40-hour game there for me.
But yeah, it's interesting to me because I know mascots and like I guess exclusivity isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo's really the only ones who've maintained it.
And part of my love for Nintendo is definitely nostalgia driven too, because most of my core, like when I think of like the memories I have about like video gaming, it's always Nintendo. Like I remember when my grandmother gave me my Super Nintendo one summer. Like that's a memory for me. I remember I always say the Christmas I got my Nintendo 64 was like my favorite Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't remember getting my original NES, but I remember lots of times playing it like with the kids in my neighborhood and like trading. I think we told this on Ninja Turtle Nerds, is we would trade games back and forth. And speaking of Mega Man, that was one thing we kind of organized in the neighborhood. It's like, okay, you have Mega Man 2, you have Mega Man 3, I'll ask for Mega Man 4, yeah. And then we'll be able to play the whole series. So yeah, and then obviously Pokemon. I told you I played the first one. Our friend Nick played that with me, and I have great memories of trading and getting the whole 150 on there. We replayed the intro 6 times so we could each have all 3 starters.
Yeah.
What
I think
what else do I have for Nintendo?
That's the thing too.
You remember in high school we used to get together every weekend and play Smash Brothers and stuff on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, Perfect Dark.
It's just like I've always had PlayStation system as like the secondary system, but it's always been Nintendo number 1 for me. Like they're like the Disney of video games in my mind. There's just that extra shine to it.
Yeah, because that's always been my number 1, and then I, at least the past few console generations, kind of jump between the other two. Because usually it's, PS4 had Bloodborne, so that sold me on that. Xbox 360 seemed to have like a crazy library, so that's why I went with that.
The thing with Xbox is they've never had an exclusive and it's funny because this is kind of the thing that's trending on Twitter right now is, have you seen that thing where they're like, Xbox hasn't had an exclusive nominated for Game of the Year in the last 10 years? And I'm like, yeah, they
that long?
Tend to not have a lot of exclusives because the whole reason I haven't owned an Xbox ever is there's never been a game that I'm like, the only way I can play that game is on Xbox that I want to play. Like, obviously, I know those games exist, but I don't care about Halo. And all the games I do care about are on PlayStation, so I don't need an Xbox. But hopefully someday they get it together and make a game that makes me want to buy an Xbox, because I'd love to have all 3 systems. The last time I was a 3-system house was when I had Dreamcast, PS2, and GameCube.
Yeah. I think with the companies they've bought who are going to be exclusive, they might finally have some stuff again. But yeah, I played Halo 1. That was it. I never got into those. Gears of War.
It's funny. I remember hating the controls of Halo, and they've eventually become what every first-person shooter controls like now.
Yeah.
And I specifically remember playing that first one and being like, oh, I hate this. I hate the dual analog stick thing. And I was so used to like GoldenEye and stuff.
I think the other thing with Nintendo with the exclusivity too, but again, it's changed so much. But I remember like on GameCube, Soul Calibur 2 got Link, and it's like, well, that's the coolest exclusive character for that game.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've always gravitated towards that too, but it's replayability and playing with other people are like the 2 core things with Nintendo for me.
Yep. Nintendo seems to be the only one who still supports couch co-op with games like Mario Party and stuff.
Yeah.
They're the only ones who still want you to make that a thing.
Because the like that the Switch, you can, if everyone's got their Switch, you can all play in the same room together. You don't have to be online. So I like that element to it. But I mean, yeah, there's drawbacks because graphics and power-wise, they're usually behind, but I
would argue those don't even matter, though. Like, the gameplay is the most important thing. Like, Tetris doesn't have a story.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best games of all time. Tetris doesn't have great graphics. But, if the game is fun to play, it's fun to play. And look at the market retro gaming has. That's more proof that stuff doesn't matter, because there's people out there who exclusively just play retro games, and they're happy.
Just released an Atari collection for their 50th anniversary. It's got like 100 plus games. I saw that,
and it looks cool because it's like half game, half documentary. Did you see that?
Yeah. So
it's got like all this documentary footage on it that somehow seamlessly interacts with the game or something. I don't know. I'll have to check it out more, but yeah, that looked cool. I feel like they release that collection every 5 years. They're like, all right, it's the 5-year anniversary, it's the 10-year anniversary, the 15-year anniversary. It's the same Atari games that just keep coming out in the same collection. Like the other one is like arcade classics they'll put out, which is the same arcade games over and over again.
Sega does it a lot too.
Oh yeah, yep. Wish Nintendo would do it more, but they know the value of their stuff.
And that, again, that's the downside. Like, Breath of the Wild probably won't go down in price until Tears of the Kingdom's been out for 2 years.
Well, I don't want to butcher the man's name, so I'm not going to say his name. But that's the thing that people are talking about right now, is somebody who used to work for Nintendo, who basically knows the business really well, was basically saying that everyone complains about the cost of Nintendo games, but they're actually underpriced. Like, he was talking about how the industry needs to start raising their prices soon, because he said in the video, Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild were both $60 when they released. And think of how much time passed between Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild. It's insane that they're still at the same price point. And look at what PlayStation's doing, is they have their $70 games now. So I'm not saying Nintendo is going to start making their games $70. I'm just saying, like, the price point is what it is. You brought up something about it being $60, and I'm like, yeah, and that's a deal.
It's just funny to me that, eventually they'll have a greatest hits or whatever. I think they've done that almost every system. Player's choice, whatever it is they do.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. And yeah, they put like a border around the box art and release it.
They just do it way, way later than everyone else. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, there's that, and like, I still to this day think the Super Star Wars trilogy is like the best movie adaptation games ever.
Oh yeah.
And that was exclusive.
Yeah, now that you mention it, it's weird that they didn't put out like a Zelda Breath of the Wild, like with the DLC included.
Right.
Usually when a game's this old at this point, they throw the DLC in for free as like an incentive, like, hey, go get this.
But that's, I don't know, like, it's weird to think that those Star Wars games were exclusive to Nintendo, and Sega didn't have any at the time. So
that's true. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, Sega. I never thought of that. But yeah, there were no Star Wars games on Sega that I know of. Let us know if there were.
I think I don't think Sega's ever made a Star Wars game, honestly.
No, there were on the there was definitely a game on the Sega CD.
Yeah.
There was a Star Wars game, but not on the regular. I don't think on the, and I think I think the 32X as well. But the regular, just Genesis, not CD, not 32X, I don't think had a Star Wars game.
Did the Dreamcast?
That I don't know. They didn't have a lot of games. They're like the second smallest library after the Nintendo 64.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, there's only like in North America, there's like about 300 games total for that system.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
So
well,
you
think of how different things were back then, man.
Yeah,
Like there
that's
weren't
true.
like so many indie developers. You know, there was like 3 games came out a month, if that.
yeah,
It wasn't like 3 games come out a week.
which I kind of miss those days, honestly. So,
Oh yeah, because then you could have a video game magazine and cover everything that's coming out this month in 20 pages.
so you wanted to do the top 5 favorite Mario games, huh?
I thought it was not top 5, just your favorite Mario games. 'Cause
Well,
I
that's
thought
what
that
I
was
mean, your
fitting
favorites.
for a little trial run of this podcast, talking about Nintendo before we find other people to do this show with and include them. Yeah, our favorite Mario games. So I figure we'll just go back and forth each one.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we have repeats, we'll just keep talking about the game. You want to go first? What's your number 5?
So I didn't think I would put one, but Mario Clash from Virtual Boy.
What?
So it was like a 3D version of the Super Mario Brothers like arcade game with the platforms.
No, yeah, I remember it. But why is that on your list of top 5 Mario games?
I just remember playing a lot of it and really liking it.
Okay.
I don't know. It was just a fun game.
You know I have love for the Virtual Boy more than most people do. Like, I have fond memories of that system, but I think one of the key failings of that system is look at that game. That game is begging to have like a multiplayer
Yeah.
feature, which they did say they were planning eventually for the Virtual Boy. It was going to have a little connector cable like the Game Boy had at the time, but it never happened. None of the games had multiplayer. And that's the biggest failing of the Virtual Boy is how antisocial playing one of those is. Because any other system, when you have friends over, they can, when it's not their turn, at least see you playing the game.
Yeah.
You know, and like get in on cheering you on or be like, oh, go over there, do this, do that. You can't do that with the Virtual Boy. It's a completely solitary experience. Even with modern VR, like PlayStation VR,
Yeah.
the
You could
the
see it
headset
on the
that Switch
TV.
did, you see it on the TV if
Yeah.
you're hanging out with a friend.
But I don't know. I enjoyed that, and again, that came down to gameplay. It's a very
Well, that is
simple
crazy.
game, and
Crazy to me that that's on there, but I mean, it's your list. God bless you. I love and I feel like that's gonna take away from my love of Virtual Boy here because I can't stress enough. I love the Virtual Boy. I still play Virtual Boy games. I've got them on a
That
few
I do not.
emulators. I used to want to get another Virtual Boy, but then like Collector's Market took over, and now it's like $200 to get a Virtual Boy. I'm like, oh, I should have got one when they were like $20. God, I missed the opportunity.
I'm gonna say
But-
you could get a Switch, the small Switch for that. Like,
Yeah. Well, they're a collector's item now. Collector's Market. The internet ruined collecting.
a bit, yeah.
So my number 5, and probably only because it's so recent, this may climb my list someday. But my number 5 is Mario Odyssey.
It's on my
Yeah.
list, but okay, yeah.
It's a fantastic game. Like I honestly think it'll end up climbing the list at some point, but I'm like, you know what? It's still recent enough where I don't want to go too crazy with its ranking. And it's one of the only one of those 3D, whatever you want to categorize them as, Mario games that I haven't 100% completed yet. It's on my to-do list. I do plan to try and get all those moons at some point. I just haven't done it yet. I know the race ones are difficult as heck, but I've done harder, I think.
I liked Odyssey because it had a good gimmick.
Yeah, the gimmick is fun. The hat swapping of the powers. It's funny. It never occurred to me until just the other day. And how long has it been out? Like years?
That might have also been a launch year game.
Yeah. And just the other day, it occurred to me, I was like, you know what? That's a lot like Majora's Mask, when you put on the different masks and get the different abilities.
Oh, yeah.
But I also love the whole changing his clothes thing, and like you can customize his outfit. Like, I hope there's another Mario game that does that someday. I'm still upset that the only Mario Party game where they wear costumes is Mario Party 2. Like, I thought that was so cool. Bring that back. Like, I love seeing these characters play dress up.
So, Mario Odyssey would be my number 3. I just liked the gameplay, like just how varied it was, like doing those 2D sections in the middle of 3D worlds. Like, that was really cool.
Yeah, the soundtrack is amazing too.
That New Donk
It's got
City
that song in the middle.
That whole
where
section,
she sings it.
yeah. But when you're going through, like, you're playing Donkey Kong, like that whole thing.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
an amazing moment.
So I really liked it, and it's.
I love when you travel on the wires too.
Oh yeah.
When you're a little electric guy.
But that, unlike a Mario 64 or something, I mean, I haven't got all the moons either, but I got a lot of them, and it was just fun because like some of it was just silly stuff, like, oh, you threw your hat at this particular rabbit. Here's a star, a moon or whatever. So I enjoyed that aspect of it.
That didn't work for me in Galaxy. I talked to you about this recently. Is I feel like in Galaxy, some of the stars are so easy that it makes the stars seem less special than they do in like a Mario 64 or the shines in Sunshine. Because some of the stars in Galaxy, you literally can enter the level and get the star within like 40 seconds, like under a minute. And it makes them seem less special. But for some reason in Odyssey, probably because you don't have to leave the level,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel less special just getting moon after moon after moon after moon. Also because there's so many of them. I think maybe that's it. Maybe combining the fact that you can get the star quickly and there's only like 6 of them per world is what detracts from their value in Galaxy to me. I don't know. I know that's some people's favorite Mario, but
Well, since you brought it up, that's my number 4. Is the first Mario Galaxy.
Okay, well there you go.
But again, it's just
Galaxy 1 or 2? Because everyone says 2's better.
no. I like 1 better. 2.
Okay.
I don't know. Two controls really wonky. I'm not against motion controls, but sometimes they've gotten too like attached to it.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely some games more than others.
But Galaxy, basically the thing that puts it in the top 5 is I just like the gravity mechanic.
I will say for motion controls, though, the best use of them, please don't ever stop this, Nintendo, is when they help you aim. Like for example, when you're shooting the bow and arrow in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
It helps so much to just be able to make that little adjustment with the motion controls that would, like, little tiny adjustments like that are hard to do on an analog stick, you know?
Yeah, I
So,
would say Galaxy.
That's the best use of motion controls to me, is when it's subtle but improves the experience like tenfold.
Galaxy's got some good motion control sections. Like, I like the ball
Yeah.
balancing thing.
Yeah.
Like, those are fun and they're not frustrating. And I don't know. I like.
I'm really good at that one too. The ball balance thing,
Yeah.
where you get the golf course basically. I'm really good at that level.
So
And,
I
what
like
else do
that.
they have?
But I mean, yeah, it's not as good as Odyssey. Like, you can definitely see where Odyssey kind of germinates from Galaxy.
I think the 3D Mario, what are they called? Mario 3D World.
Oh, All Stars. Oh
No,
no,
not-
3D World. Yeah, 3D World.
3D World, and then the the one on Switch was called like 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which I still have yet to play. So some games aren't on my list just because I haven't played them yet. Like that's one of them. But yeah, I think Galaxy led to a lot of what 3D World is like, where it's a lot of small.
Yeah.
Like each world in 3D World is like a planet in Galaxy.
Yep.
It's like a little tiny environment. There's not a lot of exploring you need to do. You just figure out how to get from point A to point B.
And I think the other thing I really liked in Galaxy is it has some of the best power-ups.
I'm trying to think of the power-ups. You got.
Like you could be the
I love the
spring.
ice flower, which went into a lot of things. I love skating on the water.
Yeah.
With that, that's great.
The drill thing is cool when you're going through like planets.
I don't think that's in the first one. I can't think of the drill thing.
I thought it was in the first one.
But no, I don't think it is. And I haven't played 2 in forever, so it's probably in the first one. I mean, probably in the second one.
But yeah, I don't know. I have yet to go back and replay at Galaxy, but I just remember
Bumblebee.
Oh yeah, the Bumblebee. That was a pretty good suit. And the cloud. No, the second one's got the cloud.
So my number 4 is a game I keep recommending to you. Super Mario Land 2, The 6 Golden Coins.
Oh, I thought that'd be higher.
I can admit it's only in this top 5 out of nostalgia, and the reason it's not higher, because I do have a lot of nostalgia, is it's a very short game, just like the other Mario Game Boy games. I mean, Game Boy games in general. Yeah. So it's very short, and it's very easy. There's not a lot of difficulty, so that keeps it from ranking higher. But there's just something about it, man. That game, it feels like home. Like it's so like the music in it hasn't been reused a lot, so when you hear it, it's specific to that game, and just the sound effects, the power-ups haven't been reused a lot. Like everything about that game is very specific to that game.
Yeah.
So when you play it, you're getting a Mario experience you don't get anywhere else, including in the Mario Land series, because the next game in the series made Wario the main character, and then the first one is like nothing like this one. So yeah, it's great. I love it. I play through it at least a couple of times a year. I remember playing it in the car on my Game Boy, and just like how good it feels when you finish a world and see that coin go into the little coin slot, and you know you only have 5 more coins to get, 4 more coins to get. And yeah, I remember also back in the days of Nintendo Power, it was like at the top of the rankings for best Game Boy game for a long time. So had some staying power.
So my number 2 is the original Super Mario Kart, because I just played so much of it and had so much fun, and it's still the best
I've
battle
said before,
mode.
I think that's my favorite Mario Kart. People call me crazy for that, and they call me crazy for Melee is my favorite Smash.
That's my favorite
they
Smash
the second one.
Yeah.
And even that one, I think, because the reason is I think the franchise went on to get too many characters. And even Melee, I'm like, I could lose a couple of these characters.
But yeah, the original Mario Kart, I don't know. It's probably one of the games I've played the most. It has the best battle mode, even though it's only 1-on-1.
Yeah. I love that game.
It took forever for the feather to come back. I don't think that came back till 8. But I just
coins too.
Yeah, the coins, I think 7 might have been when they brought that back, but I don't know, I just remember it was challenging. It felt really good to get good at it. And there was just like that, I got to beat all the cups with all 8 characters and get first place. And
I'm never going to forget, Nick and I loved Mario Kart so much that we designed a sequel, and we called it All-Star Mario Kart, and it was basically like Smash Brothers, but as Mario Kart. Like it had like Link and Mega Man.
Oh, okay.
And I don't remember who else, but like it was like all the other video game franchise people in the game. And then on paper, we literally like designed different tracks and we came up with different power-ups. I remember one of them was like two Koopa shells that would like go kind of back and forth.
Oh, okay.
You know, like they would close in on you, but they would stay in one part of the track.
Yeah.
But kind of operate as like a closing door type thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, we went crazy with that.
I still think it's got the best soundtrack of any of the Mario Karts.
It's got the Gophers.
Yep.
Gotta love the Gophers.
And like figure it. I guess that's what it was too. Is that was one of the games where I learned you could kind of just make your own thing up in a game. So like I was like, oh, you can use the feather to like bypass parts of the track. So it was just cool, like figuring all that stuff out.
Yep. Finding shortcuts, thinking your way through. My number 3, I think I'm on. Yeah, 3 is God. These next 3, all of them could have been number 1. But my number 3 is Super Mario World.
Okay.
On the Super Nintendo. One thing people talk about a lot with Super Mario World is, you know, it's they'll say like it's one of the first games they ever played and blah blah blah. What I remember is it's one of the first games that I played that had that amount of secret content in it.
Yeah.
That like wasn't made up playground nonsense. Like a lot of times you hear like, oh, if you do this, and then you go and you try it, and it was BS. Like it wasn't real. It was like some playground rumor. But like all the secret exits to the levels, there's that secret star world.
Yep.
And on top of the secret star world, there's a special world, and it's got a lot of other Easter eggs too. Like there's that level where the sections of the level change depending on what you have when you go into the pipe.
Oh yeah.
So you get like different sections. It's in Donut Land, I think, or Dino something. It's the one with the fire-breathing dinosaurs.
Oh,
and
Choco Land, Choco Island.
That's it. Yeah. And so it's like if you have like this many coins and you go in the pipe, you get a different section. If you have this much time on the timer, you get a different section. So it just had so many secrets and secret exits to the worlds and like secret zones, and just so I don't know. That's what I love about that game, is it's one of those ones where you carry that knowledge with you for the rest of your life, and you're just like, I know how to find all the stuff in Super Mario World. Like it's like almost like a badge of honor, you know?
Yeah, to the point where other people play it and you're like, oh no, you missed a thing, and they're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So what's your number 2?
Number 2. And again, any of these top 3 could have been my number 1. I love them all so much. Mario 64 was what I put at number 2.
I thought that was going to be up at the top.
It was hard to choose between my top 2, but you know my love for Mario 64, and it's not an uncommon thing. There's plenty of people on the internet who say it's their favorite game of all time. It's probably in my top 10, probably in my top 5.
I think you're all crazy.
It's like a comfort game for me. I can't even count how many times I've gotten all 120 stars. At least as many times as they've released the game. Because every time they put it out, I've gotten all 120 stars on the Wii, on the Switch, on the original Nintendo 64. I got them multiple times. And yeah, it's just such a nostalgia bomb for me. That was the game I got with that Nintendo 64 that Christmas I talked about.
Yeah.
I remember it was one of the first games where I would just stand and look at the level and be like, you know, just take in like, this is what a 3D environment in a video. Like, people ask that question, if you could go back in time and replay a game for the first time, what would it be?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that today, and I'm like, I think I'd pick Mario 64 because words can't explain how much that blew my mind. Even more than Ocarina of Time. Even more than, like, even my number one pick on this list. It just blew my mind just being in a 3D environment. And I know you didn't play it till a little later, so maybe that's why you don't have all these feelings for it.
No, I played it when it came out, but I was terrible at it.
To me, I played it and I was like, this is the future. Like, I was like, this is what video games are going to build off of. And they did, really. You can look at its influence. The next Crash game had portals just like the paintings. Yep. Pretty much every platformer had a hub world from there on out where you had to like go into the zone, like through some, because I remember Gex Enter the Gecko.
Yep, they did that.
Did the same thing. You went in the TV instead of a painting.
No, I understand the importance of Mario 64, and I did play through it, though I will never get all 120 stars because apparently it would kill them to have made it so you could control the camera better in 3D All-Stars. And it's just, that game just felt like I was in a fight the whole time.
That's so funny because to me, see, you have a very adversarial relationship with it, whereas to me, that game is the definition of Nintendo therapy. Like, I could literally, if I'm having a bad day, put on Mario 64 and just be like, all right, I'm in my zone. This is my zen. This is my center. Mario 64 lives there.
Well, it's probably a better experience then, but...
So, where are we on your list?
We're at number 1, actually, because...
Oh, nice.
You've been so... I didn't think this would be number 1, but it's because I've probably played it more than any other Mario, and it's Super Mario Bros. 3, which is funny because I didn't own an NES, but it still ended up being the Mario game I played the most because everyone else owned it. So whenever I was anywhere...
So not the Mario All-Stars version, but the original version?
The original NES version, because I just remember playing that. Like, anyone I knew had an NES, had Super Mario Bros. 3. And it's like, no...
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I said about Super Mario World could be said about Mario Bros. 3. It had plenty of secrets. They didn't have alternate exits, I don't think.
I don't think
did have plenty of like you get the warp whistle and you have that little secret where like you drop behind the scenery in a couple of levels.
Or when you get
at least 2 levels.
The hammer to get the rocks.
Yeah, the hammer to get the rocks, exactly.
And then the other thing was... I didn't
beat that game for the first time until like 2 years ago.
And that's the thing. I didn't beat that until I was an adult. You know, and Mario 3 always felt like like Mario World I beat. I didn't get all the levels, but I beat it. But Mario 3 always seemed like the one that I hadn't got through yet. And like I'm meticulous with platformers, so I'm like, no, they made these levels. I need to play every single level. So,
and that box art is iconic too. Like that might be the best Mario box art. It's definitely the most iconic. Well, maybe the first Mario Brothers game where he's jumping over the bricks there. That's pretty iconic.
I'd put 3 over.
Yeah, what else is there? I can't even think of the box art for 2. Oh, he's got the
radish. Turnip. Yeah.
Soup. Yeah, he's in the cape.
World, he's on Yoshi, but...
He's on Yoshi, yeah. He's got the cape too, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's got the cape on Yoshi. And yeah, everything from Mario 64 box art's him with the wing cap.
Yep.
We can keep going. Yeah, none of this is as iconic as the third game though. That is definitely the most iconic Mario box art.
So what dethroned Mario 64?
So number 1, and you're going to realize immediately that you should have known. My number 1 Mario game is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
Yeah, okay. That should have been obvious to me.
Because it's quite possibly my favorite video game, period. And the reason I say that is I've been telling you this a lot lately, is like when I finished, you remember when I finished the Spyro trilogy on my Switch?
Yeah.
I said, it was good, but I can't help but think I would have rather spent that time playing Mario 64. I'm playing
Mario RPG
again.
Yeah.
And it's like every time I finish a game now, that's like the metric I measure it against, is like, that game was fun, but would I have rather spent that time playing Mario RPG again? And it's like every time I play a game that's not Mario RPG, it's almost like I'm wasting video game time. And I'm because I only have a finite amount of video game hours in me.
Yeah. No, that's another one. I didn't beat it till probably 2-3 years ago. But again,
I don't know if I've ever 100%ed it either, which I've beaten that game. I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but like I've beaten Mario RPG probably 7 or 8 times, like not a crazy amount, but I've never 100%ed it. I don't think I've ever gotten all the hidden chests.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's other stuff I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but yeah, definitely still a goal to go back and 100% that game, because it's got so much charm to it. Like this year I played Earthbound for the first time, and I get why people hold Earthbound in such high regard, because it's got a very similar writing style.
Yeah.
When I played it, I was like, this is a lot like Mario RPG, the sense of humor it has. And they tried carrying that forward to the Paper Mario games, and it works to varying degrees. Like the first Paper Mario, it works really well. Origami King, the best thing about that game is the writing. Some of the gameplay kind of falls apart, but yeah, the writing is amazing, the music, everything you would want from a game. And it's got the nostalgia factor too. Like I remember playing through that game for the first time, and I remember there's like the puzzle in the ocean. I think the solution is pearls, and it gives you the letters all scrambled up, and you got to figure out what the password is. And I remember writing the letters on the piece of paper and trying to like unscramble the word and figure out what the password was. And
I miss that too. It's too easy to look everything up now. Yeah.
Yep.
The thing I think's really great about Mario RPG is the fact they even made it work. Because it's such a dumb concept on paper.
Most Mario games are, actually. But yeah.
So we're going to take a 2D side scroller, but we're going to make it an RPG. Like, what?
And it looks gorgeous too. Like the graphics hold up to this day.
Yeah, they do.
The little isometric camera thing they
Yep.
do where you can walk around. It still looks good to this day, which not every Super Nintendo game does.
I would say it actually holds up better visually than Donkey Kong Country.
I could see that, because you can definitely see the FX chip like doing its effect thing. Like you can tell around the borders of objects and stuff for Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country is another one of those games, so it's got a very distinct look to it.
But yes, I should have realized that was number one, and I keep waiting for them to remake it, because you'll be the first one to buy every copy.
I don't think that it's ever going to happen. I just hope it ends up on the Switch Super Nintendo channel at some point. Even though I know, well, they put it on the SNES Mini, so
They did.
it's possible, but I doubt it, because
I don't know. Square's been making a lot of stuff for Switch, so I could see them figuring it out.
yeah, maybe it could go in the eShop. I would buy it on the eShop, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe on the next Nintendo system,
They're gonna
the
put it
Switch U.
on the eShop for $60, and you're like, no, that's a reasonable price.
Shut up and take my money. Yeah. No, they'll figure it out. They'll find another way to get it to me. You haven't seen the last of Super Mario RPG. It's got too much of a following.
So yeah, it's a pretty good Mario list, and Yeah, we went from Mario Clash to Mario RPG, so that's quite the gambit. So
And everything in between. Because we had Mario Odyssey, like we had lots of 3D Marios, lots of side-scrolly Marios, lots of RPG Marios. We had a Mario Kart. We didn't have any Mario... Oh, I did honorable mentions. Let me get my phone. I forgot. So, honorable mentions. I don't know if you did any of these, but these were ones that almost made my list. Mario Party. I just couldn't figure out which one, but I love the Mario Party series. I'm a big fan of it. So... that's honorable mention. I already talked about how I love Mario Party 2, how they get in their little costumes, so it probably would have been that, but I love both of the ones that are on Switch too, like the newest ones, so I don't know. New Super Mario Brothers Wii U is on my
I'm not a fan of
close
that
calls.
game.
No, I love it. Again, nostalgia. It brings me back to the days of the Wii U. Which are longer ago than you think.
It was a dark time.
Paper Mario also almost made my list, but obviously I went with Mario RPG over it. It's a lot of the same ground there.
Yeah, I still gotta play Paper Mario. I know that's on the online.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's one of those ones that gets better as you go, just like most RPGs.
Yeah.
Like,
The territory, basically.
Once you have all the mechanics, once you're through all the tutorials, then it really takes off. And those are all my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I didn't have any honorable mentions because, I mean, Melee, can you consider that a Mario game? I mean...
Yeah. I don't think so, no. You're right.
But, like, one of our favorite things to play on the N64 online's Mario Golf. I don't know why. I prefer that over the Switch version. So...
Yeah, I remember I've tried to get into Mario Golf a few times. I just think the only golf game I can really do is Golf Story.
That was a good game. I enjoyed that. Sports Story should have been out by now.
It was in the last Nintendo Direct for the indie games. It's coming out next year.
Oh, good. Oh, that Mario Strikers on Wii, I guess would be an honorable mention because I played a lot of that. Again,
who wins in a soccer game, Mario or Mega Man? Because Mega Man had Mega Man Soccer, remember?
Probably Mario because he has 3 of the games and Mega Man only got 1.
That's true.
But again, I prefer the Wii version over the Switch version.
Did they do a Mario baseball at one point?
They
or something?
did.
That sounds familiar. I'm gonna look that
They
up.
did that on GameCube and on Wii.
That sounds good. Why didn't I play that?
I don't know.
He's never done basketball that I know of.
Yeah. There was a
He did?
3DS or DS, one of them.
Man. Football?
Has never done a football.
All right. Nintendo Therapy exclusive. Mario Football. American football, we should say. In case anyone's listening in another country, because we know Mario Strikers is a thing. Mario American. Oh, they could play Australian rules football. They could play
Mario Rugby.
Canadian football. Mario Football. Bowser dominates.
I bet if they made that, it'd be the lowest selling Mario sports game ever.
Yeah. They definitely did bowling. What else do they got on there? It's another sport.
Tennis.
I don't know. We're not just going to keep listing. Yeah, and it's definitely Mario Tennis. There's a bunch of them. Yeah, we're done with this. All right, so clearly we're done. Let's thank our Patreons one last time. Did I mention that this is our last episode of this? I think I did at the top when I did that whole speech. So, yeah, we're going to be shutting down the Patreon at the end of this month. Thank you all very much for supporting us. And I'm going to be thanking on the main feed as well on Ninja Turtle Nerds, everybody pretty soon. I don't know if this goes... Yeah, it'll be not Monday's episode, but the Monday after that, I think.
It will
But anyway.
be in a post-Pokemon world.
Yes. Thank everybody for helping us and supporting us, and thank you for helping us find that we love talking about Nintendo and want to turn that into a secondary podcast. So thank you to Noe, Lenny Not Dead, Ian, Rob Luther, Luis Diaz, Naris Corpse, and Janky Zipper. You guys have a special place in our hearts, and when we relaunch the Patreon, when we eventually do have like 1,000 listeners, we hope to see you there. So, and we hope to see you on Nintendo Therapy when we launch that. Stay tuned to Ninja Turtle Nerds, because I'm sure we'll be announcing it there. So, thank everybody. Good night and good luck.